So today's class will be on SUVAT. Now, what is SUVAT? SUVAT is our motion equations, and these motion equations will be consisting of speed, acceleration, time, and displacement. I should probably be more clear. It's not speed, it should be velocity. These two will stand for velocity. So what are these exactly? So S is going to be our displacement, while U will be our initial velocity. Initial as in beginning, as in when time is equal to zero, as in the beginning our velocity was this much, and then due to acceleration we will be at a final velocity. Final and initial velocity can be the same, but for most of your SUVAT there will be some form of acceleration. So yes, and acceleration, and T will be for your time. Now let's get a couple things out of the way. I know that S is not normally displacement. You should have learned the fundamental formula of speed is equal to distance over time. This is a fundamental formula. I might be mistaken, but this might come into your formula booklet. But speed is equal to distance over time should be ingrained into your brain. This is one of like the most fundamental formulas we have in physics. You need it. Without speed is equal to distance over time, you have nothing to really do in physics. Um, you need that, and I know it can be sometimes backwards because speed over time, speed is equal to distance over time is not the same as displacement. This is a different unit, different thing altogether. Displacement. You already have done displacement in measurements, so you should be knowing about it. U will stand for initial velocity, V will stand for final acceleration, and time. So we should get started by saying that acceleration is equal to meters a second squared. Please remember that there is a squared up here. It may also be referred to as meters a second a second. This basically says rate of change of speed over time. Yes, so generally, question papers can sometimes try to trick you by saying meters is like this, like this one, although they will usually be in the form which you're most comfortable with, which would be meters a second squared. I'm sure you've come across this. Um, so let's look at a basic question like this. All of these questions are actually 3-mark questions except for these multi-part questions. This worksheet will be on in the description, and because it's in the description you can go through these multi-part ones. Also, I won't be covering these multi-part ones in the lesson, mainly because it's like you do A first and then you do B and then you'd be just doing C. This would be a follow-up question essentially. um, do one and finding the answer to A will help you with finding the answer to B. Then the answer of B would help you finding the answer for C. I will be going over just the single part questions and not all of them. Please do those in your own time if you need extra help. So these will all be 3-mark questions. Yes, and the reason why they're 3-mark questions is because they want you to give the formula, then they want you to substitute that formula, and then give the answer with the correct units. So for distance, that would be things like meters, initial velocity, also meters a second. For both of these is meters a second, and time is in seconds as well. These are the most common units used. So let's look at something like this question right here. Accelerates uniformly. So one other thing with the SUVAT equations is that they all require you to have a constant acceleration. Um, Acceleration, increases our speed, velocity, but the acceleration itself should be a constant acceleration for every single one of your SUVAT questions. Um, so let's see here. Accelerates uniformly from rest so that after 10 seconds it achieves a speed of 15 meters a second. So after 10 seconds its speed is 15 meters a second. So this 15 will actually be our final velocity, and our time will also be 10. Yes, so from this we know that we have final velocity, we have initial velocity, we need to find acceleration, and we need to get time, and time is given to us. This will help us find the acceleration. They also want you to find the distance covered. Distance covered will basically be a follow-up question, um, which I'll get to. I guess we will be doing a follow-up question today then. So let's just start. So final velocity 15. We start from 0 because at rest it's the same thing as u is equal to 0. Yes, because if you're resting, that means your velocity at the beginning will be equal to 0, and then it'll be plus acceleration, and time we said was 10 seconds. So 10 times a is equal to 15. Therefore, a needs to be equal to 1.5. And if you do answer like this, you will be not getting your full marks because you're missing a couple things. First of all, you're missing your um, units. Missing units, you don't get the mark. Um, the formula has been substituted correctly, although you will need to give the formula itself. Remember, formula, substitute, answer with unit. This is how you get your full marks, otherwise you don't get your full marks, and it's going to be very sad because this is an easy question, as the math was super simple. You should be able to figure out that a is 1.5 without a calculator, without even thinking about it really. um, so it would be very sad if you lost marks just for units and not giving the formula. That's how you get 3 marks. Let's look at a slightly and the follow-up part for this. Yes, distance covered, right? So we look at this formula here because now we have the initial and the final velocity. Yes, we also have the time taken. This is divided by 2, and this is going to be our displacement. So we do it through this. So 0 plus 15 divided by 2 times 10. So this would be divided by 2 would be 7.5 times 10 will be equal to 75. Let's see if we're right. We are right. Displacement is equal to 75. Please write down your answer as meters. Double underline if you're doing this on a piece of paper for your exam. Once you give your answer, you just double underline it to make it nice and clear. This is your final answer. You have working, and give the what do you call, formula itself as well. Please write down this formula before you start. I've got limited space. That's why I didn't write down the formula in the beginning. So another thing we do need to talk about is these formulas. Should you be remembering them or not? Technically, the IB doesn't, MYP does not require you to remember these formulas. In MYP, you're given a formula booklet which gives you all 5 of the SUVAT equations, so you don't have to technically remember them, but this and this, these are definite yeses. You need to know these two, otherwise you're just wasting so much time. If you're looking for the 6 and 7, you should be looking at these two formulas um, to remember, and I'd say that this formula is basically optional for you. Just a quick, because normally these questions with this formula is slightly less common. So you don't necessarily need this formula, although you will at least get one question based on it. So the formula booklet will cover you on that. Although the top one and the bottom one are very common, mainly because if you do u over v over 2, that's basically your average velocity. And then its average velocity times time is equal to displacement. This is really just a rearrangement of so distance over time. So over here it'll be times um, speed times time is equal to displacement. That's basically what this formula is. It's just a rearrangement of your fundamental formula, and they expand this. You don't have to worry too much of how you get to the formulas. They won't ever ask you how is this formula created, although it can be a nice little trick to remembering the formulas. So let's look at another question, one which has velocity and acceleration. So for something like this, it's a little more words, like a little more numbers. So how would you go over doing this? So you'd look at it, you'd look at the values it's giving and the values it's not giving. You'd see, okay, it's given initial velocity. Okay, so initial velocity, this has initial velocity as well. This one does not have initial velocity. It won't be this one. We know that it can't be this one. This one also has initial velocity, and same with this one. Let's look at the other things it has. We already crossed out one. It has final velocity there as well. So yes, this has final velocity. This has final velocity. This one does not have final velocity. So even though this one passed our first test, it won't pass. So we know this one is also not going to be used. And now we finally look that, oh, it's given us acceleration. Well, that means acceleration, and it asks for displacement. So because this one does not have displacement, we know we can't use this one, not anymore. So we can see that the only one which has all the numbers which we need will be this one, right? Because it has acceleration, displacement, initial velocity, and final velocity. So this one does require you to square it, and by square it, what they mean is you put the number in, then you square it, not that you need to root it. So let me get some extra working space. Just get rid of that. And let's see how you'd go over this. So v squared is equal to u squared plus 2as. Yes. So what's our final velocity? 36 kilometers an hour squared is equal to our initial velocity. That would be 5 meters a second squared plus 2as. So this would be acceleration of 1.25, and displacement is what we are trying to find. Another small trick they did is kilometers an hour, meters a second. So going back to our previous lesson of measurements, you should learn how to convert meters a second into kilometers an hour. Each kilometer is 1,000 meters, and each hour will be seconds times 60 times 60. So you should be able to convert it there, and you would then work backwards, and you should be able to quite easily find that it's 30 meters is our displacement. Um, you will generally you may be given marks if you have the wrong unit, but it's right when you convert it. So 30 meters would be 0.03 kilometers. So if you do give that, that will be right. Although kilometers for your final answer, especially that small of a decimal, generally in this case you might not get marks because it would be very weird to use kilometers. Uh, please use please use meters in this case. So yeah, that should be everything you need to know for SUVAT. Please remember the formula and the basic stuff. Because if you know the formulas, you should be able to do any of them. If you can do A, you can do B, C, D, and E just fine. Yeah, SUVAT is not a difficult topic. It's just one which takes time. Please double check your working. Please make sure you copy down the formulas correctly. Double check your answers. Make sure you don't do any silly mistakes that you will regret.